The 2023 NFL Draft is less than 2 weeks away at this point, so it's time for my final Bears 7-round mock draft. What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears draft discussion video, which I'll be doing throughout the next couple weeks, and also after the NFL Draft, I'll be reacting to all the picks, obviously giving you guys videos, breaking down all the picks, also be live streaming my reaction to the draft on days 1 and 2 on my channel. So if you guys want to see that, be sure to subscribe. I'll have more details about that. In the coming days and weeks, I'll probably have more people on that stream as well, like my friends, other content creators in the community, to give you guys our reactions to all the picks the Bears make. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait until the NFL Draft actually begins, because it's been a lot of speculating over the past 2+ months, not even 2 months, probably like since October, since September. Honestly, we've been speculating about this draft with how bad the Bears actually were last year. But the Bears are in a position this year, guys, to do a lot of good for the franchise. Okay, lay the building blocks of this franchise, the foundation of this franchise for many, many years to come. Because the Bears do have, as you guys know, 10 picks in the draft this year, including multiple picks in rounds 2, rounds 4, rounds 5, and round 7. So a lot of picks we have this year, a high first round pick we have as well, a top 10 pick, number 9, which we could trade back from maybe, like Ryan Poles already did for number 1. Maybe he could do it again. So in this mock draft, I will be predicting trades as well, a couple trades I have in this mock, because in real life, obviously we know trades are going to happen. Trades happen every year in the NFL Draft. Last year, Ryan Poles traded down like 4 times, I think, in the later rounds to get more picks. So there will be trades in this mock, and also this is going to be a predictive mock draft, not what I would do myself. So it's going to be based on what I think Ryan Poles will actually do during the NFL Draft, based on what we've seen from him already in the past, last year's draft, based on what prospects the Bears have met with, have conducted research into, and also the needs that the Bears have as well. I know that Ryan Poles did say he's gonna try to go best player available, but every GM says that. But at some point, you do have to fill in some of these big needs that the Bears have as well, namely the need at right tackle, maybe a center, defensive lineman, obviously, edge rusher. So we have a lot of needs that we do have to fill. So I'll be trying to fill in as many as I can. And last thing, guys, before I begin with the mock draft, if you guys could take a second to leave a like on the video and drop a comment down below, so YouTube is going to share it to other people, I would greatly appreciate that, because it took me a long time to make this video. I tried to make it as detailed as possible, talking about every pick as much as I could, and I did a lot of research into these prospects, probably the most I've done maybe ever doing this channel, because we had so many damn picks this year. Okay, usually with Ryan Pace, we only have like 4 or 5 picks in the draft, so I only have to look at, guys in like rounds 2. We usually don't even have a round 1 pick. We usually don't even have like round 3 picks, because Pace traded all of them away. So definitely a lot more work now, but I do enjoy doing it. Obviously, but leave a like if you guys want to. I would greatly appreciate that. But enough talking, guys. Let's get into the mock draft. We have a trade in the first round again. The Chicago Bears are trading back from pick number 9, going back to pick number 16 with the Washington Commanders. In exchange, they'll also be receiving a second round pick, pick number 47, a 4th round pick number 118, to go back all the way to pick number 16. Now, the reason why the Commanders did this was because Kentucky quarterback Will Levis fell to pick number 9 in this mock draft, and the Commanders not being fully committed to Sam Howell just yet, according to Ron Rivera and the front office, they are looking into drafting a quarterback if one that they like, falls a little bit in the draft. And this would be the perfect opportunity for the Commanders to jump up a few spots to go get their franchise quarterback. It's not too much to pay, only a 2nd and 4th round pick. Teams have paid way more in the past to go up to get their guys. So good trade for the Commanders, good trade for the Chicago Bears as well, who are looking to, according to reports, trade back again. Okay, Ryan Poles has said he's open to trading the number 9 pick again, and on his draft board, if there's nobody significantly better at pick number 9 than anybody that he thinks is going to be available at pick number 16, obviously he's going to be trading back. Okay, so in this mock, there's no Jalen Carter available, there's no Tyree Wilson available. So in that scenario, I do think that Ryan Poles would consider trading back to get more and more picks to help out his rebuild, because the Bears need picks. Okay, they have a lot of holes on their roster still. With the 16th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. Darnell Wright is known as the Will Anderson stopper among many SEC football fans, going up against Will Anderson Jr., a top 5 projected pick in the draft this year, arguably the best pass rusher in the entire, draft this year. He allowed 1 pressure going up against that guy. 1 pressure going up against Will Anderson Jr. Last year in the SEC, playing right tackle, starting at right tackle every single game, he dominated against his opposition. Okay, his tape is littered with really good performances against the best of the best competition in the SEC. He only allowed 8 pressures and 0 sacks all of last year. Just insane, incredible stuff he showed on tape, which I feel like matters a lot. Okay, in my opinion, who you went up against, how you performed against the best of the best competition, that matters a lot to me to project how you're going to be at the next level. And I've been a big fan of Darnell Wright for some time now. Actually, the Bears drafting him in a mock draft I posted a couple months ago in the second round, but now the mock drafts have been going a lot higher than the second round. Some as high as pick number 9, some as low as pick number 28, 29, but now he's rightly being viewed as a first round offensive tackle prospect because he's every bit as good as a Paris Johnson Jr. or a Broderick Jones on tape, and he has the tools and the upside to be the best tackle in this class. So I'm glad the NFL world is viewing him as a first round prospect, and the Bears have done a lot of due diligence on him. Okay, they met with him at the combine, they had a top 30 visit with him at Hallis Hall, they've been doing a lot of research into him at corner David Kaplan, and it just seems like it would be a perfect fit for the Chicago Bears with the big glaring need they have on the right side at right tackle. Darnell Wright has started 27 games at right tackle for the Tennessee Volunteers and played really, really well there as a pass protector and also growing as a run blocker too. Okay, he's definitely a better pass protector, a more refined pass protector in my opinion than a run blocker, but I still feel like he could be a decent fit in the zone blocking scheme that we have, even though I know some Bears fans disagree with that. Okay, he is on the bigger side, so he's 6'6", weighs 333 pounds, definitely heavier than most tackles, you know, in a zone blocking scheme would be. But if he loses like 10-15 pounds, which he definitely can do when he gets to the NFL level, I'm sure the Bears will ask him to lose some weight, he could still be a good fit in the scheme, because if you look at his athletic testing, he is an athletic 333. He's not like a DaWindy Jones that cannot move at all up and down the field or laterally. He can move, in my opinion, pretty decently for his size. He's probably not as good of a fit as a Broderick Jones or a Paris Johnson Jr. would be, but I think the upside in regards to his power and his technique is better than a Paris Johnson Jr. or like a Broderick Jones, where even though the scheme fit may not be the best, it's not the perfect scheme fit, I do think he can fit the scheme if he does get a little bit lighter. And as you can see, his athletic testing was really, really good. Okay, he can move up and down the field. He can move pretty decently laterally, not, again, as good as a Paris Johnson Jr., like a Broderick Jones, but good enough for the Chicago Bears scheme. And if you look at where Darnell Wright really wins, okay, how does he actually win his matchups? It's with pure power. Okay, he's one of the most powerful tackles in this class, and more importantly, he uses his power really, really well. Okay, his technique in pass pro is more refined than, again, some of the other tackles available in this class. He anchors really, really well. His hand technique, his hand fighting technique is really, really good. When he punches, you know, he stuns opponents. So if you watch him on tape, man, just as a pass protector, as a pure pass protector, he does not get overwhelmed with the bull rush too often at all. Okay, where he can lose probably at the next level is against like a speed rusher, against a finesse rusher, but even there, I feel like he can continue to improve because he does have the athletic traits where he could continue to get better. And like I mentioned, he probably will also lose weight when getting to the NFL if he does play for a zone blocking based scheme like the Bears have. And if you also look at him on tape, I mean, he finishes blocks in a very angry and nasty way, which the Chicago Bears definitely are looking for on their offensive line. Okay, Tevin Jenkins is one of the only guys on the offensive line that did finish blocks like that. Okay, Braxton Jones also had some good flashes at left tackle, but if you want a guy that can pancake guys, that can bulldoze people, that can hold his own in pass protection and be a solid, you know, anchor for Justin Fields on the right side, Darnell Wright is going to be that. Now, in the run game, again, he leaves some to be desired, in my opinion, like maybe not the best of the best run blocker. So for a Bears, you know, scheme that does run the football a lot, he's going to have to be better there. He's going to have to be quicker on his feet, but I think those things are achievable for him with the athletic profile that he has if he does lose 10-15 pounds. So all in all, man, I would be extremely happy if the Bears did select him, you know, at pick number 9 or trading back to pick number 16 to even acquire more picks to get him. And the Bears, fun fact, guys, have not drafted an offensive lineman in the first round since 2013. Kyle Long was the last one, okay? And we wonder why the Bears offensive line is always so bad. It's because we have never invested, you know, high draft capital into the O-line. Well, it's about damn time that changes, and I think it will this year for the Chicago Bears. We have another trade, okay? This time the Chicago Bears are actually trading up for the first time in the Ryan Poles regime to get into the high second round. They're getting pick number 36 from the LA Rams. In exchange, they're giving up pick number 47, the pick that they just got from the Commanders, in trading back from pick number 9. And they're also giving up pick number 103, a 4th round pick, to go up into the high second round. I know that Bears fans will say, why would Ryan Poles trade up? So far, he's only been trading back to get more and more picks. Like, wouldn't this go against Ryan Poles' philosophy? Well, at some point, every GM is going to trade up to get their guy. I don't think Ryan Poles is going to be doing that too often during his time with the Chicago Bears because he does seem like the guy to value quantity over, getting his guy, because he does fully realize that at the end of the day, the NFL draft still is kind of like a lottery system where if you have more lottery tickets, you're going to do better. It's a crapshoot, right? So he does realize that, but at some point, if a prospect that he really, really identified as being a first round level talent, which there is going to be some that fall to the high second round, why not go up and get your guy? You have ample draft capital. You have so many picks this year in the mid rounds. I mean, in this mock draft simulation, I have 3 picks in the 4th round. So what is giving up 1 4th round pick going to do for you? Okay, it's not going to hurt you that much if you are the Chicago Bears. Yes, I know it's almost a top 100 pick, but again, like I mentioned, the Bears have 2 other 4th round picks in this mock draft, one from the Commanders and one from the Philadelphia Eagles that we got in the Robert Quinn trade. So the Bears are in no ways hurting for draft capital. They have the assets to do a trade up like this to get their guy at the top of the 2nd round. And for the Rams, it makes a lot of sense too, right? Because they need draft picks very badly. Okay, they're starving for draft picks because they traded away a lot of draft picks to get the 2021 championship, which I'm sure they're not complaining about, but they could use the picks at this stage, only going down 9 spots, picking up basically a top 100 pick for them would be a fantastic trade for the Rams as well. So a good deal for both sides. I think both sides get what they want out of this draft day deal. With the 36th pick in the 2023 NFL draft, the Chicago Bears select Adetomiwa Adebawore, defensive tackle out of Northwestern. I'm listing him as defensive tackle because most likely with the Chicago Bears, he would be playing 3 technique because he's already talked with the Bears about playing the 3 technique role if he gets drafted to Chicago. Adetomiwa's tape is a up and down experience because some games he seems like this dominant guy on the inside, just wreaking havoc, causing so much chaos in the middle, playing well against the run as well. But other games he seems like he's not a factor whatsoever, just getting completely thrown out of plays. So he's pretty raw in his technique, but his upside is ridiculously high because he has stuff that you cannot teach. Okay, if you look at his measurables, if you look at his athleticism, his explosiveness, you cannot teach this to anybody. He's born with these athletic gifts that you can mold into hopefully being, more advanced and being more consistent, which is why he's going to be going in the top of the 2nd round in the draft this year, or even a little bit earlier. Okay, I've been seeing some mock drafts with him going in the late 1st round because that's the level of athlete that he is. And for a league in the NFL that really, values these interior pass rushers a lot more than they used to, okay, guys like, Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, et cetera, Quinnen Williams too. I mean, these guys are premium players, and the Bears need a 3 technique to be that premium athlete that we don't currently have on the defensive line. So he would be a fantastic fit in Chicago in that regard. Okay, if we do not get Jalen Carter, the next best option, in my opinion, at 3 technique could be Adetomiwa Adebawore because nobody else is that explosive, has that much high upside in the draft besides for Jalen Carter. If I read you guys his athletic testing, I'll put that on the screen right now. You can see it's absolutely unreal. I mean, he has the speed and the explosion that very few tackles in the history of this game have ever had. Okay, look at his 40, his 20, his 10-yard split, his get off is pretty good. His lateral quickness is very good. His explosion in the vertical and broad jump, very, very good. The only thing that he does not have is the proper size, maybe to be a prototypical interior defensive lineman, but we've been seeing a lot more undersized defensive tackles have success in the NFL nowadays. I mean, look at Aaron Donald. He was viewed as being too small coming to the NFL draft. That's why he fell, and we all know how that turned out, okay? The best pass rusher maybe of all time from the inside at defensive tackle. So the explosion and the raw power and the raw speed. I mean, if our coaching staff is worth a damn, which I think they are, okay, we have a pretty decent defensive-minded head coach, a guy that's molded many great prospects into being great players at the next level in the NFL in Matt Eberflus. If we do have a coaching staff like that that can turn this guy into what his full potential can be, this could be an absolute steal for the Chicago Bears in the early 2nd round. I'll put his stats on the screen right now, and as you guys can see, had his best year last year by far. He had 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 38 total tackles. The year before that, he had 4.5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss, and he played many different spots on the D-line. He played some 1 tech, he played some 3 tech, he played some defensive end, outside the tackles. So he's very versatile in that regard, that he is kind of a tweener, right? If you look at his size, he's not the biggest defensive tackle, but he's probably a little bit too big to play defensive end. So he's kind of a tweener, kind of like a DeMarcus Walker that we already signed. But I do think he will be mostly a 3 technique with the Chicago Bears because they've already talked to him about, being that with us. And his explosion and his power and his, upside is probably best suited at the 3 technique spot, where the Bears do not currently have a guy that can wreak havoc in the middle and be that dominant pass rushing force from the inside. So definitely a risky pick for the Bears because he could turn into a bust as well. I mean, he is super raw, but if he turns into what I think he can be, this would be a fantastic pick for the Chicago Bears. With the 53rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Isaiah Foskey, edge rusher, out of Notre Dame. The edge class this year is so deep that a player of Isaiah Foskey's caliber, a guy that could be a high-level starter in the NFL, could be found in the late second round just because there's so many guys available at edge this year that are really good, okay? There's, obviously Will Anderson Jr., there's Tyree Wilson, there's Lucas Van Ness, there's Nolan Smith, etc., etc., etc. There's so many high-level prospects where the Bears would be wise to take advantage of one of these prospects being available late in the second round. And Isaiah Foskey, guys, is Notre Dame's all-time leading sack producer, okay, at 25 sacks during his career at Notre Dame. I'll put his stats on the screen right now for you guys to see, but in 2021, you can see he broke out. He had 10 sacks, he had 9.5 tackles for loss, 52 total tackles, and 6 forced fumbles. Okay, that's a crazy amount of production forcing fumbles in college football. Last year, he had 10.5 sacks, 13.5 tackles for loss, 44 total tackles, 1 forced fumble. I believe he had a couple punt deflections too. He blocked some punts on special teams, or blocked some kicks, I believe. So has some, value on special teams as well with his fantastic build and his fantastic speed, which I'll talk about right now. I mean, this guy tested really well at the combine. I'll put his RAS score on the screen right now, but you can see very fast, very good get off. He has a 10-yard split of 1.6. The explosion is pretty good. The agility is pretty decent. The size is pretty good, 6'5", 264. So a guy that could be, fantastic fit in this Eberflus scheme. Eberflus does love the guys that are a little bit bigger at defensive end, so he does fit the weight and the height threshold that the Bears have. So from an RAS perspective, definitely fits what the Bears are looking for. They mostly only go for these high RAS guys in the early rounds like they did last year. Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, and Velus Jones all tested really well. So he tested pretty good, very productive too, and I think he's a full package at defensive end for the Chicago Bears. Okay, he does have some areas to improve on. Obviously, he's not the best run defender. Sometimes he does concede the edge a little bit too early. So setting the edge, being a better run defender, that could be some areas where he has to improve. But if you look at his pass rushing technique, he does have a variety of moves to his game. He has a nice rip move. He has a nice bull rush because he is a strong, powerful guy. He has the stab move to go to as well. I mean, his arms are pretty long, so he can use that arm length to his advantage. And he's not the bendiest guy, so I think, in terms of bend, maybe not the bendiest, but from his size, from his power, from his speed, from his athleticism, from his explosion, he has a variety of different ways to win. And I think that him forcing so many fumbles during his career as well is going to be important for the Chicago Bears. They really do, like these guys that can force fumbles, that can turn the ball over, because that's a big thing in Eberflus's defense. So there's so much to like about this guy. I mean, he's tough, he's smart, he's competitive, he's a guy that was a leader in the locker room as well. So from an intangibles point of view, very good player as well, and a guy that just fits so many areas, checks so many boxes for the Chicago Bears, where I feel like he would be a fantastic pick in the end of the second round. With the 61st pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Luke Whippler, center, out of Ohio State. It's about time the Chicago Bears invest in a high-quality center for their franchise quarterback. The last 2 years, it's been the Sam Mustipher experiment, which has gone horribly wrong for them. Okay, they've gotten really bad center play over the past couple of years. Now, currently, the Bears do have Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick on the roster, which either of those guys could be starting at center for the Bears next year, but I do feel like it is worth it to invest a high-quality pick into a starting caliber center that could be starting for you for many years to come. I mean, Cody Whitehair is getting older now. He hasn't played center for a couple of years. Lucas Patrick got injured all of last year, and Doug Kramer, I forgot about him. He's also on the roster, a draft pick from last year, but he suffered a pretty bad injury, and he was a 6th round pick, which you just cannot be relying on these guys to give you high quality level play, which is a big risk for the Chicago Bears, because next year we do need an adequate pass protecting offensive line for Justin Fields for him to break out as a passer, okay, not just only as a runner. And I think that Luke Whippler would give Justin Fields the chance to do that. Now, Luke Whippler is coming from Ohio State, but he did not play with Justin Fields. He only played 15 snaps in 2020, mostly as a backup that year. He played a lot more with CJ Stroud, the quarterback from Ohio State from this year. But if you look at his play over the last 2 years when he started every game for the Ohio State Buckeyes, he's been a rock solid center for one of the best offenses in all of college football. In 2021, he had 516 pass blocking snaps, only allowed 1 quarterback hit, 7 hurries, and 0 sacks all of that year. The following year in 2022, he played in 449 pass blocking snaps, allowed 7 hurries again, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 sack all of that year. The only sack came against Georgia in the college football playoffs. So you can tell he was rock solid for quarterback CJ Stroud. I mean, part of the reason why the Ohio State Buckeyes have such a good offensive line is because of the high quality play they got from their starting center. And as you guys know, the Buckeyes pass the football a lot. So if you want Justin Fields to break out as a passer, you're getting a guy at center that knows how to pass protect very, very well. Okay, it's probably, best trait in my opinion is how good of a pass protector he is. He has the awareness, the anchor, the technique, the understanding of angles, the understanding of leverage to really succeed at the next level. And he's a great communicator as well, which is pretty important for the starting center. I mean, the starting center is going to be calling out the protections, and he is a leader of the offensive line. And Luke Whippler was a fantastic leader for the Ohio State Buckeyes offensive line. And his movement skills make him a fantastic fit, most importantly, in the zone blocking scheme that the Chicago Bears currently run. He's pretty small, he's pretty undersized, which is why he plays center and not guard or tackle. He has 31.6-inch arms, pretty small, but if you look at his movement skills, very, very good. Okay, fantastic 10-yard split, fantastic shuttle, good 3-cone, good explosion too. So moving laterally, which is a big ask of offensive linemen in the scheme, he can do that and fit the scheme very, very well. Okay, engage in the blocks that we're going to need him to engage in to run our scheme at a high level. And he does have the down the field ability as well to engage in multiple blocks down the field if need be, to get to the second level. So he can do that as well. So all in all, a pretty okay run blocker, maybe not the best run blocker. Like, he's not going to maul people, but he's a decent run blocker, very good pass protector. The only flaw I can find is that he is a little bit undersized. So against the bull rush, maybe is going to lose sometimes, but very smart guy, very athletic guy, very refined in his technique as a pass protector. I think he could be the Chicago Bears starting center for many, many years to come if the Chicago Bears do end up drafting him. With the 64th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Tre'Vius Hodges-Tomlinson, cornerback out of TCU. You can recognize by his last name, he has football in his blood. He's actually the nephew of LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Fame running back in the NFL, and the athletic traits that he has, the athletic gifts that he has are very similar to an LT. Now, he's not as tall as LT, he's not as big, which is why he's going to be going a little bit later in the draft this year. He is very undersized. He's 5'8", weighs only 178 pounds, so at the next level, he's probably only going to be a slot cornerback, a nickel cornerback, because he just does not have the size to match up against, 6'2", 6'3" outside receivers, most likely in the NFL. So mostly only a slot guy, but if you look at his other testing, his other traits, he could be one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL because of the athletic gifts that he actually has been born with. Okay, if I read you guys his RAS testing, I'll put it on the screen right now, but you can see extremely fast, extremely explosive too. Did not do agility testing, but on tape he is very agile. He can move laterally very, very well, so that's not going to be a problem either. And he's one of the twitchiest athletes I've seen in this entire class. I mean, his athleticism, his jumping ability, his ability to get up and down the field is just insane. And, playing nickel cornerback, you need guys like that because slot receivers in the NFL are getting better and better. They're getting faster, quicker, and twitchier. A guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Detroit Lions, he's producing big time for them out of the slot strictly for the most part. I mean, you have Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State going into the NFL next year. He's a fantastic slot receiver. You have number one options across the league like a Justin Jefferson also playing a lot out of the slot. So you need a guy that's twitchy, that's fast, that's instinctual, that can, take away that middle of the field, play man-to-man, play some zone to be an adequate defense nowadays in the NFL. And even though the Bears did draft Kyler Gordon last year, he did not play that well at nickel cornerback. He played pretty good outside down the stretch of last year, but if you want to put Kyler Gordon now full-time just as an outside cornerback, you can put Tre'Vius Hodges-Tomlinson at nickel and benefit big time as a defense. I'll read you guys his stats as well, and he was very productive, as you guys can see, for the TCU Horned Frogs. So in 2020, he played in 7 games. He had 26 total tackles, 13 passes defended. In 2021, played in 12 games, had 41 total tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 that he took to the house, 7 passes defended. And then in 2022, he played in 15 games, had 50 total tackles, 3 interceptions, and 15 passes defended. So pretty productive in terms of getting his hands on the ball, which is going to be important, playing at nickel where he's going to have to, break up those passes over the middle. And, talking about his physicality, he's a very physical cornerback too for being a pretty small cornerback. Okay, on tape, he laid out a bunch of nasty hits over the middle of the field, on the outside as well, and he left some receivers wincing in pain and also broke up some passes just purely from how hard he actually hit the receiver. So don't think that just because he's small, he's not going to hit you hard, because he definitely will hit you hard. And he's a type of physical cornerback that Eberflus is going to love in this defense, because all the defensive backs we have, they're pretty physical, pretty scrappy, defensive backs. So definitely a scheme fit in that regard, and a guy that's just such a good tackler, such a good instinctual guy, such a good jumper too, where although he is, pretty small, I think he could project to be a very good cornerback at the next level, especially for a team like the Chicago Bears that could still use some help in the secondary. With the 118th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Chase Brown, running back out of Illinois. As many of you guys know, I'm a big Illinois football fan. I went to Illinois for college, so I've seen my fair share of Chase Brown games over the past couple years. And when I tell you, this guy carried the Illinois offense on his back. He was the driving force of our offense the past couple years, especially last year. If I read you guys his stats, I'll put them on the screen right now, but you guys can see in 2022, he had 328 carries for 1,643 rushing yards, an average of 5.0 yards per carry, had 10 rushing touchdowns, also helped out in the receiving game too with 27 receptions for 240 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns too. The prior year in 2021, he had 170 rushing attempts for 1,005 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, had 142 receiving yards, and did pretty well that year too. So back-to-back seasons of having over 1,000 yards rushing, and last year just completely broke out and was one of the best running backs in all of college football. I mean, the things this guy had to do by himself with how much the Illinois passing offense struggled at many points last year, it was unbelievable. Okay, getting first downs all by himself late in games, icing games, moving the chains down the field whenever we needed a big play to be made. Chase Brown always showed up for us, which is why he could be an every down back in the NFL, a number one back. He's already proven to be able to handle a strong load on his shoulders. Okay, he played really well last year, even though we gave him the ball just a crap ton of times. Now, I know Bears fans will say, is there too much wear and tear on his legs because he got used so much last year? Well, there might be to some extent, right? Like he doesn't have the freshest legs in the NFL draft, but he's only 22. He's not that old. Obviously, last year, even when he did get injured at times, he played through injury and played still really well. So this is a guy that can play through pain and still tough it out and be, warrior on the football field. And if you look at his athletic testing, guys, he fits the zone blocking base scheme the Bears run to a T. Okay, he's a fantastic athlete. I'll put his numbers on the screen right now, but you guys can see he has the home run hitting ability that Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus are looking for on this team. Fantastic 40-yard dash, 20-yard split, 10-yard split. If you look at his explosion, one of the most explosive athletes at running back in this class. He did not do agility testing, but I watched him a lot on tape, and he is agile enough, has enough lateral quickness to succeed in a zone blocking scheme. I mean, Illinois ran a lot of zone runs, outside zone and inside zone plays, last year. So he can be a fit in this scheme where he has to, pick and choose which lane to cut through, which lane to cut back into. He can do that because he is patient enough and has the right vision to find the proper lane to go through. And when he gets into space, he is not going to be caught up to, because he does have top end acceleration and speed. Okay, he's going to take runs 40, 50, 60, 70 yards to the house at the next level because he is just that damn fast. So I think Brown would be a great pick for the Bears in the 4th round. He has some pass catching upside too. He's not the best pass catcher in this class, obviously, otherwise he'd be going a lot higher, but last year he did show the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and be, at least be adequate in that regard. He's never going to be a top end pass catcher. Maybe he's not going to be a top end pass blocker either, because he is kind of small. He's 5'9", but with how athletic he is, with how productive he was in college, with the leadership abilities, with the intangibles, I feel like the Bears would love him as a RB2 or an RB3 in their scheme. With the 133rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Yaya Diaby, edge rusher out of Louisville. Besides having a fun sounding name, he's also a very fun player to watch on tape as well, and a guy that still has a lot of growing to do. Definitely not anywhere near his full potential so far. Very raw in terms of his pass rushing technique, his pass rushing ability. He only has 1 or 2 moves to go to, uses a lot of his athleticism to really win so far. So a lot of learning to do, but a guy that if the Bears can mold him into being a starting defensive end eventually, he could be a damn good pick in the 4th round, and a guy that could provide you with some production in year 1 as well as a rotational, situational pass rusher. So Yaya Diaby, guys, his athletic testing was insane, which is why I think that Ryan Poles is going to love him, because obviously we know that Ryan Poles does love these athletic freaks that he can, eventually mold into being great NFL players. So I'll put that on the screen right now, but you guys can see fantastic speed, fantastic explosion, no agility testing recorded, but pretty good size as well, arm length. Pretty decent. I'll read you guys the stats as well. So last year he broke out for Louisville. He had 9 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 37 total tackles. He had 2 fumble recoveries. Before that, not very productive the other years at Louisville. So that is kind of a concern that he only had 1 very productive year, but he got better every single year. Okay, he was very raw when he first got into Louisville, and he's still pretty raw right now coming into the NFL, but he is a guy that just has the tools that you love to take a chance on in round 4, because it's low risk, it's a round 4 pick, but if you hit big on this guy, you're getting a guy that could be one of the best players on the defensive line for the Chicago Bears. That is no over exaggeration, just because of the tools that he has and the athleticism, the traits that he has as well. So in round 4, man, for a team that badly needs more defensive line help, Yaya Diaby would be a fantastic pick for the Chicago Bears. With pick number 136 in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Xavier Hutchinson, receiver out of Iowa State. Xavier Hutchinson might be the most underrated receiver in this entire draft class, because I don't see nearly enough people talking about how good he actually was in college football. Okay, he's projected to be a round 4 to round 6 pick, which I feel like could be a steal for any team that actually gets him there, because what he showed on tape and what he produced, in college football should warrant, a higher selection on him, in my opinion. But I don't think any team is going to go for him too high, because his testing was not the best. I'll put his testing on the screen right now, but you guys can see, didn't really flash in the 40-yard dash, didn't really do well in the other testing. He didn't do agility testing either, so you can tell the testing did not really inspire a lot of confidence in him. But athletic testing is not the end all be all if the tape was pretty good, which it was for Xavier Hutchinson. I know that Ryan Poles does put a lot of stock into athletic testing, but for a round 5 pick on day 3, you're not going to put that much stock into only the testing. Okay, that's the reason why it's falling to you in the 5th round, and I feel like you have to go for it if you are having the chance to take him, because the Bears could still use another receiver, guys. I know that we traded for DJ Moore. We have Chase Claypool coming back healthy. We have Darnell Mooney coming back healthy. So we already got a solid starting 3, but behind them, the depth isn't too great. You only have Velus Jones and EQ St. Brown, which you hope that neither of those guys have to take on big, massive roles next year, because they weren't really that special last year in extended starting periods. Now, Velus Jones is going to be a gadget guy and be a kickoff return guy, so he's still going to have opportunities to touch the ball, but as a number 2, number 3 option, if there's injuries happening to Mooney or Claypool, you probably don't want Velus to be playing like 70% of the snaps on the field. But maybe a guy like Xavier Hutchinson, who showed a lot of versatility in college football, that showed the ability to go downfield, win a contested catch, win a jump ball, also play in the slot, win inside releases against pretty decent DBs in college football. Like he's a all-around receiver that I feel like the Bears would be very, very lucky to have as a receiver number 4 or number 5, because if he does have to step in at any time, I feel like he could do that and handle a starting role. Now, talking about stats in college football, I'll read them right now, put them on the screen, but you guys can see a lot of production. So last year, in 2022, he had 1,171 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns, an average of 10.9 yards per catch, had over 100 catches. Very, very productive year for him last year. The year before that, 2021, also almost had 1,000 receiving yards, had 987 receiving yards with 5 touchdowns, average 11.9 yards per catch, 83 receptions. The year before that, 771 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. So basically every single year starting, with the Cyclones, he has been very, very productive. Their number 1 weapon on that offense the last couple of years by far, and they didn't really have too many other, great pieces on that offense in the receiver department, right? So he was getting the vast majority of the target share and handling a lot of the load, and he produced big time for them still, okay, even though he had so much attention drawn on him. And he just does a lot of different things well for a wide receiver, okay? He's a very well-rounded receiver. He's a good blocker, he's a good route runner for the most part. He doesn't have top end speed, but he can find ways to get open. He has quick releases. He can go down the field, win a jump ball, win a contested catch multiple times on tape. He showed the ability to high point the ball, come down with an acrobatic catch, make a tough catch over a DB. Ball tracking ability is very good, so if Justin Fields wants to throw a jump ball into the end zone on a fade, or one-on-one going down the field on a corner route, whatever, like he can throw a ball to Xavier Hutchinson, and Hutchinson might come down with it, because he came down with a lot of those catches in college football. So just all around, man, so many things he does well where I feel like, in the 5th round, this could be a steal of a pick for the Chicago Bears, who do need another receiver for Justin Fields. With pick number 148 in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Broderick Martin, defensive tackle out of Western Kentucky. The Bears could use another space-eating one technique on this defensive line. Okay, we already signed Andrew Billings to a 1-year deal, but he's only going to be here for 1 year, for right now, unless we re-sign him, extend him. But we could use another depth guy behind him to develop for the future and to rotate in with Andrew Billings this year as the season goes on, right, to keep guys fresh. And with how bad our defensive line was last year in terms of stopping the run, we could use a guy like Broderick Martin, who is a big, menacing, space-eating people mover on the inside. Now, I couldn't find his testing at the combine because I don't think he did testing at the combine for whatever reason. So I'm looking at the measurements on his college's website, which could be off by a little bit because colleges do kind of mess with the numbers a little bit to make their players look better than they actually are in terms of measurements. But on the website, it says he is 6'4.5", 337 pounds, arm length 34 3/8 inches long. So very, very good testing in regards to his height and his size. I mean, that's a big, strong guy that's going to be the proper size to be a one tech in the NFL. Now, he's not very athletic though because of his size, because he is this big, so he can't really explode off the line. He can't really move laterally as well as some other guys can. He's not the most gifted athletically, obviously, because he is this big. But for being a one tech in this scheme, he's mostly going to be asked to be a run defender and a guy that occasionally does get pressure on the quarterback, but mostly just being a space eater on this defensive line to get opportunities for other guys on the defensive line that are faster, that can actually get to the quarterback, get to the ball carrier. So it's not a big deal that he's not very, very athletic. And if you do look at his tape, obviously he didn't go up against the best of the best competition at Western Kentucky, but he got doubled up pretty often on that defensive line. Like, he did not have many opportunities to be one-on-one with the offensive lineman because opposing teams knew that he'd probably get past that one-on-one block pretty easily because he is that big, he is that powerful. So definitely has a role in the NFL as a space eater, as a one tech, and the Bears could definitely use him on this defensive line as a run defender in this scheme. With pick number 218 in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Will Mallory, tight end out of Miami. The Bears could use another tight end. They only have Cole Kmet and Robert Tonyan right now under contract at tight end, so we could use another, tight end 3 to develop long term, and getting a project player in Will Mallory who tested really, really well at the combine, a guy I'm sure Ryan Poles is going to love based on his athletic testing in the 7th round. Now, obviously, you're not going to get a very polished player in the 7th round, and Will Mallory does have a lot of flaws to his game. He's not the best blocker. He's not the biggest guy. He's basically a glorified receiver playing tight end, which he's going to be a project for sure in terms of, learning how to run routes better, learning how to get open at the NFL level, learning how to block better to play in the scheme. So he's not going to be ready to start right away, but as a depth guy and as a guy that could still, see some playing time as a rookie, maybe in the end zone or maybe on some routes, going down the field, some easy routes, like, he could be a good option for the Bears because look at that speed and look at that explosion. Very, very rare. And Justin Fields could use another all-around weapon in this scheme for now and for the long term as well. And if you look at Will Mallory's stats in college football, so last year, 538 receiving yards, had 3 touchdowns on 42 receptions. The years before that was nothing too special, but had about 300 receiving yards per season for the most part. So didn't break out really until year 5 in college football, which I know some people could view as a concern, but that's why he's going in round 7, right? He is kind of older. He's still going to be somewhat of a project, still being an older player, but with that athletic profile in round 7, you cannot really go wrong there if you are the Chicago Bears. So as a developmental tight end, I think that Will Mallory could be a solid option for the Chicago Bears. With pick number 258 in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Jake Witt, tackle out of Northern Michigan. Jake Witt has a very interesting story. So he was actually recruited to play basketball in college. So he actually played basketball at Michigan Tech at first, but then he switched schools. Did not play sports for a year, but then after the COVID year, he said he wanted to play football. So he tried out for the Northern Michigan football team and he played tight end with them. But during the year, they actually ran out of offensive linemen, so he actually had to play offensive line, out of necessity, and he played really, really well there in limited snaps. So the following year, he actually played left tackle for every single game for Northern Michigan. So pretty fun, pretty interesting story, a story of a guy that just somehow found his way, to playing football and played really well at his new position. But this is a very raw guy, a guy that's very not knowledgeable yet about the fundamentals, about the proper techniques. So it's going to be a developmental guy, a project guy that you're not going to take higher than round 7 because you can't bank on him being a superstar, like a starter for you. But if he does actually develop properly, if you look at his athletic tools and his athletic profile, there is so much to work with here. Okay, 6'7", 302 pounds, pretty light, probably can gain some more weight. But if you look at his mobility, very, very mobile. Okay, laterally and going up and down the field, very explosive too. So again, for a Bears team that does love these athletic linemen, I think that Ryan Poles could take a swing on a project player in round 7 to give him a chance to develop here and maybe turn into something very special for the Chicago Bears in the 7th round. So there you have it, guys. That's the entire mock draft. Finally, if you guys have been watching still up to this point, I appreciate all you guys for watching this much of my content. But I'll put the draft on the screen right now again for you guys to see it all together. And I'll be very, very happy if it turns out to be anything like this. So first of all, I got a high upside tackle on the right side in Darnell Wright. I got a 3 technique in Adetomiwa Adebare. I got a potential starting edge rusher in Isaiah Foskey. I got another potential starting center in Luke Whippler, who has a lot of experience, at Ohio State. I got a nickel cornerback in Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson, a very athletic nickel cornerback. I got a very athletic, explosive running back, a depth running back. I got the edge prospect to develop. I got a receiver number 4 or receiver number 5 in Xavier Hutchinson. I got a 1 technique in Broderick Martin, space eater. I also got a developmental tight end and a developmental offensive tackle prospect in round 7 as well. So all in all, man, I think the Bears would be much, much better if the draft turns out to be anything like this, because not only did I get players to help us out this year, but also players that could help us out in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Okay, guys, that could be really, really good for the future with the Chicago Bears. But let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Okay, what would you do differently for the Bears? Would you trade back still from pick number 9? I know that some people maybe don't want to trade back to be in the range still of a Jalen Carter, although in this draft, Jalen Carter was not even available. So I think if he was available, I'd probably stay at number 9 and pick Jalen Carter because he is that good. But if not, I think the Bears would be wise to trade back because there are many tackle prospects available that are really good this year. So leave your thoughts down below, guys. I'll be back again with my stream on days 1 and 2 of the draft. I'll probably have a couple more videos out for you guys next week, just talking about random stuff regarding the NFL draft. I won't have any more mock draft videos, obviously, because this is the final one of the year. So hopefully I get some of these picks right, predicted correctly. We'll see in a couple weeks. But leave your comments down below. Hope you guys have a good next week. But as always, bear down.